listening to the Non-League Football Show, live every Monday from 9 p.m, or download the podcast at bbc.co.uk/non-league.
For the fans, by the fans, welcome to the BBC Non-League Football Show. Coming up tonight, a footballing rebirth. We hear about the team who've been through worldwide exposure and come out the other side. Talking of worldwide exposure, we'll meet the man charting the progress of non-league football on the silver screen. And as always, if there's anything you want to discuss, you can get in touch via the email bbc.co.uk, nonleague@bbc.co.uk. You can tweet us at Non-League Show or text 81333, start your message with the word London. All that and not a mention of 3G or the weather, possibly not in sight. All in the next hour here on the BBC Non-League Football Show.
Respect the game on the pitch, moan about it off it on the BBC Non-League Football Show. Every Monday from 9 p.m, or download the podcast at bbc.co.uk/non-league. Live football, love non-league. On the home of London sport, BBC London 94.9.
Now, in honour of the fact that Billericay Hendon has been moved to tonight, it's a Ryman League Premier Division fixture. It's been moved to tonight so that the players tomorrow can spend Valentine's Day with their other halves. Oh. Can you believe that? So in honour of that, thanks to @BrentwoodLoyal, by the way, for tweeting us about that. First up, Dr. Love and his disciples. They call him Mr. Lover. He's certainly hot under the collar when prowling the dugout for Harrow Borough. Top non-league manager Dave Anderson. Evening, Dave.
Good evening.
So, card, flowers.
Yes, thank you.
Willie was expecting it all.
I haven't got a Willie, I've got the card and the floor. So.
Our next guest could probably flog you Cupid's arrow together with his watch and a top-class entertainment system. Mr. Wheeler Dill, a top non-league scout, Willie Wordsworth.
Hi, Caroline.
Bought, sold anyone today?
Funny enough, yes. Me and Dave were talking about it on the way in.
From the world of non-league?
Yes, he's come out of the pro game just to try and get in the Olympic squad, and he's gone to Basingstoke today.
Defender, striker?
Centre half.
New Zealand international.
New Zealand international.
His name is?
Stephen Old.
Any good? Well, obviously you would say so.
I know so.
Well done, that man. Any money exchange hands?
No, I'm not a scout. I can't have. No. I'm not an agent.
Allegedly.
Finally, you know what they say about a man with big gloves. Must be a goalkeeping coach, and he is that. England sees Mick Payne. Evening, Mick.
Hi, Caroline. Nice to be here.
It's lovely to have you, someone of international pedigree, in the studio for once.
Excuse me?
You're excused.
They're a nice old goalkeeper. You know what I mean? What do you want?
All right.
Goalkeepers Union, you be careful tonight.
He brings it up every so often.
I can see that.
His international pedigree. Tell us, for those that don't know about England C, in a nutshell, England C, what level do they play at? What's it made up of?
Yeah, well, I say the England C is all conference players below the conference, really, all the way down, and great opportunity for these lads to play and get their international cap. So, as we've said earlier on, there's been a number of players who have actually come through who are now playing the professional game. It's a massive, massive honour, and I believe anyone who gets selected for the England C, they will go on to do extremely well in the game.
Because some people, those perhaps that are cruel, might say it's a bit tin pot, isn't it, having a third stage England team? But actually, the strength of calibre of players that they play up against as well, we're talking full-blown internationals.
Oh, exactly. I mean, I was just saying to the lads earlier on, I mean, we played last year and we played Portugal in the final of the European tournament. I mean, Portugal had 3 full internationals in the side. And then when we play... every game we play against, we're going out to Russia, and they're going to have a side of under 23s, but it's their contingency squad of their full international side.
And it's the pride as well in playing for your country too. So playing for England, so you go through all the rigmarole that you would do if you were David Beckham, if you were still playing, Steven Gerrard.
Exactly. The players, they're treated extremely well. They're looked after. They're in terms of all their training kit, the facilities, the hotels, preparation. They really, really are looked after. Like a full pro, and rightly so.
What interests me, looking at the current England squad, so you're preparing at the moment for a game in Italy, against Italy, looking at the squad, there's a real balance across the blue square leagues of players. There's not one team that really dominates the squad. No,
I think you're looking at, Forest Green have got 3 in the squad, haven't they, in terms of that. But what tends to happen with this squad, and especially with Paul Fairclough and Steve Burr and myself, the players don't always stay around too long. That's the nature of the beast, that they get in the squad, and if they're doing well, they're going to move on. And because it's predominantly an under-23 squad, if they're involved 2, 3, 4 games, they've done exceptionally well because they either move on or they're too old. That's the idea of the team.
And the likes of Steve Morrison, players that are now playing in the Premier League, that have come through, that have plied their trade with England C, they're testament to how valuable it is, isn't it, as a squad and as a playing unit? Yeah,
it's incredible. We've had over 100 players now playing, in the league, who play for the England C. Like as you said, Steve Morrison, Michael Morrison at Charlton, Aaron McLean, who's at Hull. The list is endless. Really, DJ Campbell. Quite.
How does it? Because it's not only from the conference. How does your network work? I.e., the scouting side of it. Who decides who goes where? Is it word of mouth that this lad's doing well at Hinckley, for instance? How does it work?
Again, Paul has got his scouting network like we all have in the game, and he speaks with managers, but he gets his own scouts out there. Also, now he's got Steve Burr in the conference, but Paul himself not being involved at Barnet now, he gets out a lot more and sees the games as well. But there's any player, it's not. Yes, we did mention about conference, but there will be players in the Ryman's. I mean, the young boy who's at Ricky Holmes, who's at Barnet now, but he was at Cheltenham. No, Chelmsford.
Sorry about that,
Colin. Just check.
Yeah, you went to Barnet for nothing. Yeah, I know.
But I mean,
Thank you, Willie.
The point I was going to make is that you were talking earlier about it being a tin pot, cap or whatever.
Not my views.
Yes, and I mean, my assistant at Harrow's, Jason Goodliff, who captained the England side. We were talking about it before. You tell him it's tin pot,
not at all.
Rip your head off. He's very, very proud of it, and I've spoke to him several times about the games and how things are done, and it's an experience that someone who's had a big, long career, Jason, loads of success.
And often why you see England C turning up these results against, you said, the likes of Russia, who've got 3 or 4 internationals in there, they will turn up the result because the pride and wanting to play.
Well, that definitely is the case. It'd be fantastic if one day you could come along and see what goes on, in terms of the setup, in terms of all the preparation that goes into it, and in terms of how the players are so proud to wear that shirt.
Well, you mentioned the goalkeeping union. Maybe we'll send Dave along with some recording equipment.
Well, I was just about to say I'm a neutral. Obviously, being from Northern Ireland, I'd be perfect. 3 days in a hotel watching these guys work. That would right down my street.
And of course, if you want to, a scout to have a look at some keepers for you, Dave's available.
You're definitely right, I'm sure.
That's right.
You're listening to the BBC Non-League Football Show. Goalkeeping coach extraordinaire Mick Payne from England C with us in the studio tonight. But let's rattle on with everything else that you've missed since we were last here. With the weather taking its toll, I mentioned it yet again, Jake Harris struck 4 minutes from the end to rescue a point for 10-man Newport at Stockport in the only Premier game of the day. Here's the Newport manager Justin Edinburgh with BBC Radio Wales.
Well, he's got a fantastic knack of popping up and getting valuable goals. And I don't think you can coach that, but I said it weeks ago, he's not quite ready to affect the game from the off. But it won't be long before he's knocking on the door and asking why.
Barrow joint boss Darren Sheridan has left the club by mutual consent after 5 years in charge. He was suspended by the Blue Square Bet Premier side last week for undisclosed reasons. Here's their chairman Brian Keane with BBC Radio Cumbria.
The club is in a strong position now. This incident is now past. There will be talk, and if anybody is not happy about the situation, get hold of me or any of my board members, and we'll chat through. There's nothing untoward. Darren's gone, sadly. Good luck to the lad.
In the north, Halifax won at Colwyn Bay to move 9 points behind Hyde with 2 games in hand, while bottom of the table Eastwood lost 3-0 at Workington. They're 12 points shy of safety. In the south, a 2-2 draw between Truro and Salisbury was the only game of the day. And in the Northern Premier League, leaders Chester kept up their assault on the league with a 2-0 win over Stafford. They're now 6 points clear at the top. That's a little bit of what you've missed since we were last here. Obviously not much football, but what was Well, perhaps an interesting weekend for many of those teams. Now, we're just going to bring you up to date with a couple of other news lines. We were due to have a statement today from Darlington Football Club, from their administrator, about all that's going on there. The latest we have it is that legal discussions are continuing. Not as we speak. I'm sure they've gone home. They might still be there. But we're expecting something tomorrow to come out of Darlington. But what about the other club so-called in crisis? Let's get an update on Kettering and speak to John Dunham. He's chief sports writer at the Northamptonshire Evening Telegraph. Evening, John.
Evening, how you doing?
Very well, thank you. What about Kettering? What's the current situation?
Where do we start? Basically, I mean, the worst thing that could possibly happen pretty much did happen in the build-up to the weekend, and that was that Northamptonshire Police withdrew their policing from the game against Telford, which was supposed to be played on Saturday, meaning that had that game gone ahead, which it was never likely to because of the weather down here, it would have gone ahead behind closed doors, which, as far as I could see, was pretty much the end of the world, to be honest.
You and a lot of the fans both. It really has. The gloom has descended upon Kettering. What about George Rolls and his perhaps involvement in coming in a takeover?
It's a rumour that won't go away. It's speculation that won't go away. It keeps resurfacing every so often, and yeah, there's definitely something in it. I think without a doubt, it's been around too long for there not to be. So, but quite what it is, I don't know, because it's all been very quiet, really, in terms of particularly today. I was expecting it to be reasonably lively, and it was. I was sitting around pretty much twiddling my own thumbs, really, because it's eerily quiet now, unfortunately, which I don't think is particularly a good thing. But the George Rolls link is far too strong for there not to be something in it.
Yes, we understand as well that that people are still confident that he will be involved in a takeover of the club. We can't hear anything from George at the moment, though. But
sorry, can I just ask, John,
Go on,
how do the supporters at Kettering feel about the possibility of George Rolls going back to the club?
I think, I mean, I can't speak for them, but given the state of the club at the minute, I think a lot of them would pretty much take anything, to be honest. Now, George has obviously got his history, which everyone's aware of. I've never met the guy personally, so I'm not going to judge anybody until I meet them or work with them. But I've obviously heard plenty. But I think it's kind of at the stage now where people are thinking anything. Please just give us anything, any kind of hope. But whether George Rolls is the answer or not, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
For those that don't know, George Rolls are still very much involved in Weymouth Football Club as well, so obviously you'd have to sort that out before anything happened with Kettering. What can the fans do? I know that there's been talk of organising a fundraiser on Wednesday.
Yeah, that's right. They, that in the wake of what happened last week with the policing thing and everything, it kind of lit a fire certainly within the Kettering Town Supporters Trust, and they issued a statement pretty much on the back of that news, saying that as far as they were concerned, the club was all but dead after that news, and they made one final appeal to the community and local businesses to try and help and do something. And on the back of that, Kettering have actually got a friendly on Wednesday night, which was originally going to be against Peterborough United, is now going to be against Coventry City Reserve side. But what it's turned into is basically a fundraising game, and the Supporters Trust have organised it on their own back. They're going to be asking fans for donations, £7 for adults and £3 for under 16s. They're voluntary. No pressure to make a donation, but they've set up their own campaign to try and raise some money, and that's part of it. They're doing what they can, but it's a difficult one, because. And I've said from the start, when it's all in control of one man's hands, everyone else's hands are pretty much tied. So they are doing what they can. They're raising money through their own ways. They're keeping the money in a separate bank account to everyone else's. It's not going direct to the club. It's going directly to the trust. And then they will decide how they use it. And as you would have seen, they certainly used some of that to help pay off the money that was owed to Southend Manor from the FA Cup game not that long ago.
And hello, John. It's Willie. What's the position with Ashley Westwood at the moment? What's his take? Has he sort of come out and said anything at the moment, or
manager?
Not really. Westwood's been brilliant, to be fair, because he kind of came in to train with the lads and ended up getting the job the same day when, he wasn't really expecting it. I think he was looking at a move possibly out to Thailand. So, but he's been brilliant, and he's got a couple of results, and I'm not entirely sure how he's done that, considering how unmotivated they must be. But he's done really well, and he's probably the most relaxed person at the club because there's no pressure on him, and he's also been very vocal in saying that he isn't getting involved in the off the field stuff. He's staying well clear of it. He's not asking any questions. He's just getting on with it, and until he's told not to. And I think that's probably been the right thing for him to do. But obviously he would have been tied to some discussions that are going on behind closed doors. And I actually spoke to him pretty late on today, just to have a chat about that game on Wednesday, and he seemed reasonably positive for one reason or another, which he didn't let me into. So I wonder what's being said behind the scenes at the moment, but he certainly seemed reasonably positive today, I thought.
Okay. So it could happen either way, anytime really. That's the message at the moment, John. If people want to follow you, I know on Twitter you're keeping everyone up to date with all the latest news, as are BBC Northampton as well. But what's your Twitter address? It's
at John Dunham ET, and I'm a big fan of Twitter. I quite like it. So I'm trying to keep everyone as up to date as possible. Sometimes there's things that you hear and you can't say, and people understand that. But in general, I'll unleash whatever I can because I want the club to carry on, and I want it to carry on in its current form, and it's going to be a big challenge. But I do think that something might happen, and hopefully it will, and we can get on with talking about football again.
Too right. John, thanks for coming on the show tonight and keeping us up to date with everything that's happening at Kettering. I was just looking, Mick, through your squad, see if there are any Kettering players. There aren't currently, but then Kettering at one stage didn't have many players either.
Not at all, no. It's a shame, really, isn't it? Well,
when you look at a club, again, that was so big, and Darlington too, we mentioned in the same breath as Kettering, so, two really big clubs that would have produced players
most
at
definitely
one time, and hopefully will again in the future for you guys at the England C setup. Yes,
as a current crop, have you got anybody can go on from there, do you think?
Well, I say in terms of we've I don't want to harp back, but we've had some fantastic players. But as we say, each time now, you're getting new crops coming in, new players, and they've got to bed in a little bit. But the likes of Danny Rose, I think Danny Rose has always impressed for me. He's really a level-headed guy. I think I know he'd been at Man United as a young player. Done his apprenticeship there. And I'm going to say about the two keepers, because the two keepers for me, Preston Edwards, he admitted it himself. He lost his way as a young keeper. He was in the England under-17 squad at Millwall and places like that. Then fell by the wayside slightly, but he's rekindled his enthusiasm. He's shown a real desire to get back in the game.
It can happen, Mick, but it's also when they come back the second time, you can really get something, can't you? When they see the light,
he was hungry for it, and I think sometimes these young lads, they get it very, very easy early on. That's
then the penny drops when they're about 25.
Exactly. And he believes he can go on, and I believe he wherever he plays is another matter, but I do believe he could go in the game. And the young keeper, Jonathan Hedge, who's at Tamworth, he's impressed as well this year. He's got back in the side, and I know at Fleetwood the other week he saved a penalty late on, and they got a 2-2 draw there. He was, I think he was man of the match, outstanding.
We were talking about Kettering and Darlington. Some good news, positive news on a club that has gone but is now returning. You probably all remember the story of Croydon Athletic embroiled in the cricket scandal that made it worldwide news and attention, brought it perhaps unwarranted to the world of non-league football. Let's speak to Paul Smith, one of those who's behind AFC Croydon Athletic, a new club that's born. Evening, Paul.
Good evening.
It reads a bit like a Hollywood script, doesn't it? I mentioned
it's a little unbelievable for being a Hollywood script.
Well, I don't know if you say that. But too true. Tell us briefly the recent history of Croydon Athletic for anyone that may have missed it.
Well, for anyone that may have missed it, obviously Croydon Athletic, really the last 5 years have been, a real roller coaster ride. For many years, the owner of Croydon Athletic was a man named Keith Tuckey, who put a lot of money into the club and a lot of money into junior football, and he died very suddenly in 2006. And after that, and after the club being saved by a local businessman, it was taken over by a businessman called Mazza Majid, and he invested money into the club, and everything looked very good. And then in late August 2010, the News of the World broke a story about cricket match fixing that involved Mazza Majid, and it's been a real struggle for the last 18 months or so, trying to keep the club alive, and a lot of people put a lot of work into that. Unfortunately, it wasn't successful, and the club played its last game in December of last year, and has effectively now folded.
But you've shown enough resilience as fans to get the club back up and running again.
Well, I think so, and that's certainly what we want to do. We met last Monday evening, and we had a good turnout, and there's quite a lot of enthusiasm to try and get the club up and running again, and hopefully playing for next season. There's a lot to do to be able to do that, but we're hopeful and realistic about what can be achieved, and I think a lot of people have got a lot of. They've been through the junior program, they've been through the youth program with the club. There's a lot of affection for the club locally, and I'm sure I'm very confident there's a lot of people that want to do everything they can to make sure the club doesn't die completely.
Willie,
where are you going to play, Paul, and what sort of level?
Well, our intention is to secure the lease again on the existing stadium in Thornton Heath.
Who owns that, Paul?
Exactly.
Well, the ground is owned by Croydon Council and was on a lease to the Croydon Athletic Football Club. The owners are in default of that lease. And I've already had meetings with the council, and they have been very positive. We've got further meetings next week to hopefully secure the lease on that ground. Obviously, in terms of where we'll play, we know we need to drop at least 2 divisions. That would take us down to the Combined Counties Division 1, possibly the Kent Invicta League, because we're sort of where we are. We're in the middle of those two leagues, and if we can, that's what we hope to do, and hopefully restart in one or other of those leagues next year.
And what would your message be to those that perhaps go to chase the dream, that welcome people that come in with, understandably, come in, here's lots of money, let's make an assault on the league? What would be your message, having gone through it and now come out the other side and trying to rebuild again?
Well, I think, you've always got to have a degree of realism, but at the end of the day, if the club is bought by someone, you don't really have a lot of control over that issue. Yeah. At the end of the day, the circumstances were for Croydon Athletic that the owner and benefactor, who'd done a tremendous amount of good work, died very suddenly. Someone came in and willing to keep that club alive, but in doing so effectively took over the whole club. So there's no control over who you sell the person to, but the person that the club was bought by had a very good reputation in Croydon, and it's a very, very difficult problem, because football is a competitive game, and whatever level you're at, you want to try and be successful and move up. I think it's always a cautionary tale, but really the fans are at the centre of it. There's not a lot they can do about it. I mean, ultimately, once a club is in someone's ownership, you have no real control as to who they sell it to, and you have very little control as to who those people are.
And there lies the problem. Paul, if people want to get in touch and help you rebuild the club, which I'm sure they will, how can they do that?
Well, I think it can be followed on Twitter. The Supporters Club Twitter is at the Rams Army, and I think that's as good a way to do it. Anyway, there's also a Facebook page as well, which is AFC Croydon Athletic, and we're talking to the FA and the league about that name, and hopefully that will be approved. But that can certainly be a way of following it, and as I say, we're very hopeful that things can get moving.
Here's to the future.
Yeah,
Paul
good luck.
Smith from AFC Croydon
Yeah.
Athletic. Thanks for joining us on the show this evening. We said worldwide attention. It was mad at times.
Yeah.
And we didn't even mention, I don't know if you remember the Danish fans that came in and were owners at one stage as well. So it's all happened. I said it read like a Hollywood script. Perhaps Paul could help get some money back into the club by selling the rights.
Dave and I don't know if he spoke to Tim, because Tim O'Shea was the manager then,
that's
and all
right.
that, and he was.
They were doing very well, wasn't they?
Yeah, and he couldn't. Caroline rang me and tried to get him on the show, if you remember, and he was so distraught at what happened. He couldn't actually. He didn't want to come.
No, he took it bad.
Yeah,
I'll tell you the other thing is
really
that it's not public knowledge. Is I was actually interviewed for the job when Tim got it.
Who interviewed you?
The guy, the cricket guy. The guy. What's his name?
And what happened when you went down to the interview?
Got LBW.
He was out first ball.
So let's continue this discussion during the travel, shall we?
Just a little bit of useless information.
Thank you for that. That's what you're here for, Dave.
Yes.
Dave Anderson, Willie Wordsworth and Mick Payne, my guests on the non-league show tonight. Keep your tweets, your texts and your emails coming in, and those we can read out, we will.
You're listening to the Non-League Football Show. Real football, real fans. Download the podcast for free at bbc.co.uk/non-league. Good chat, costs nothing.
They didn't offer you the England job, did they?
No, not yet.
Good. Right, lots to get through this evening, including a mammoth score from Fleetwood. We'll catch up with Simon Up North in just a few moments. But another story broken on our Twitter feed. Do follow it at Non-League Show. Of course, there's plenty of stories that happen during the week when we're not here and able to communicate to you in the way that we would wish. So we often break things on the Twitter, so that their Twitter. Have a look at Non-League Show. You will have seen that a story that is now spread as far wide as Norway. Was first touched on by us last week, and even perhaps Basildon too. May have heard it there. The little story of Bath City from the conference selling the naming rights to their ground. Let's speak to Ned Vaught from the club. Evening, Ned.
Evening, how are you?
Can we get something straight before we start this interview?
Sure.
No mentions about any playoff defeats for Chelmsford City against Bath, all right?
You mean the one a couple of years ago?
We're not
Go on,
mentioning
Ned,
that.
give it to her.
No, don't. Please don't. Right, Ned, tell us about selling off your stadium, your soul, getting rid of everything.
We're not getting rid of everything,
No,
but
there
just
you
for
go.
one season, we're giving people the chance to get the stadium naming rights for £50.
And what do they have to do? Is it literally just the fact, send in a suggestion with your 50 quid and it could be you?
Pretty much. I mean, we're doing it technically as a sales promotion. So you're buying 4 tickets to the Forest Green match on Easter Monday. And with those tickets, you get the chance to enter the competition. You just submit your name online. If you go to namethestadium.co.uk, takes a few seconds. You put your submission in, comes through on the computer 2 minutes later.
Dave Anderson.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Who came up with it? Did you just sneak it off because Man City have done it, Arsenal have done it? Is that where the idea came from?
Kind of. I mean, we have meetings all the time, and it was kind of a combination. A couple of directors wanted to sell the naming rights just to get some extra income.
Yeah.
We
Very
came up
good.
with the idea of a draw. We decided to reduce the tickets to make them sell better. And then once we got down to £50, it became obvious, well, that's something that's accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
And then the idea of promoting it this way came out.
Very good.
And it has been promoted well. We've heard you on national radio, not you personally, Ned. They only roll you out
I
for
know.
our interviews. But
Only the best shows get me.
thank you. That's quite right. Well done, that man. You are forgiven. But I've read about it in national newspapers as well. Heard you on the radio. Seen a bit on that there telly as well. And you're getting a surge of entries from Norway. Is that right?
Yeah, we got contacted by, I think they're the equivalent of like The Sun in Norway, called VG. They asked for press release and some pictures, and they put up a story online. And it's funny because the entries came in literally within a few minutes. First, I couldn't quite believe it, and then we've had about 15 or so, I guess, over that day, which is just money we never would have had from Norway.
And are they all coming to the Forest Green game too?
I don't know. I mean, we'll send them the tickets, certainly. That's what they're paying for. But no, most of them just think it's a quirky idea and are interested. And they certainly have some quirky names.
Give us a couple of examples.
I was going to say, sorry, Dave.
Well,
Ned, how's it drawn? I mean, does a committee draw it, or are you just going to draw a name out of a hat?
No, we'll draw a name out of a hat at halftime at the FGR match.
So you've got to vet them first, obviously, because there could be some dodgy names in there, couldn't there?
Yeah, we've got quite stringent terms and conditions, so you can't say anything profane. You can't say, I hate Bath City, or I love Newport County.
Oh, my God.
Things like that.
We won't go there.
But we are being quite relaxed if people want to say something, that personally interests them, as long as it's, not obscene or something like that.
That's fair enough.
Well,
Great
we have
idea.
all chipped in the studio, and we are putting a non-league show in as an entry, Ned, so expect ours too, and I might even send one of the boys along.
That'd be a great winner.
Forest Green game even on the day. Right, what was your question, Dave Anderson?
No, mine was, I just wanted a couple of the examples of what the Norwegian people had put in to see if he could pronounce it.
Well, the first person was a guy named Thor With. His surname With, yeah. And he suggested the Thor With Stadium.
That's good.
That's brilliant.
Sign him up.
Yes.
We won't bother with ours, because that's a cracker, that one.
We had one, I think the name was Gary Hart, or someone, as far as I could tell, he's a drummer from an American 80s band called Husker Du. Not the guy that entered, but they want to name it in his honor. But I mean, to be fair, most of the entries have been local businesses, and one of the things that's been really exciting is, we spend a lot of time trying to cultivate relationships with local businesses, but there obviously you miss some, and quite a few that we've never had contact with. And so they're coming to us and saying, we want to get involved. And all of a sudden now we're going to have a list of more businesses to contact for the future. So it's brilliant.
Win-win-win.
I think the non-league show stadium sounds quite good.
Yeah, with the Dave Anderson stand in the Willie Wordsworth end.
He does have a big end.
Caroline,
Ned,
my missus is listening.
Thank you for coming on the show this evening. When's the draw? Sorry, it's half-time in the FGR game.
Yeah, 9th of April, Forest Green Rivers game on Easter Monday.
Brilliant.
And how long have people got to get their entries in?
Until that Wednesday. So if they go namethestadium.co.uk, they have until midnight on the Wednesday before.
Namethestadium.co.uk. What about your team's fortunes before we let you go, Ned? Could we possibly hear it renamed? Are we going up in, 2013?
Well, no, I think things do look bad some days, and there are days where it seems like we have some awful luck. But I do have the tremendous fortune to meet some of the players and talk to them from time to time, and they remain incredibly positive considering some of the difficulties we've had. And, there's still a lot of football to play, so I certainly wouldn't count us out.
A great club, genius thoughts and ideas that always come out of Bath City. Thanks again, Ned, for coming on the show tonight. We do feature Bath quite regularly because they are just a hive of ideas.
Wish them luck. Wish them luck.
And, fortunately, it may dampen down a bit if another club now decides to do something quite similar.
Well, they will,
but it's,
won't they? They'll all have a go now.
It's well worth having a look around. When I used to be involved with Chelmsford City, the one thing I always used to say to them is just do a trawl of all the other non-league football club websites, see how they bring their money in, see how they're attracting business, see how they're attracting attention. So much to learn.
Caroline, I mean, really, it's a great idea for any club. Do it local businesses.
Absolutely,
why not? Why not? It's a way of getting some revenue in, and it's very, very necessary.
Well, the one that Chelmsford have adopted now is the businesses pay £500 and they get drawn out of the hat to be the club sponsor for the year. So everyone chips in £500, and again, that's a way of bringing extra money in, and you get a business that perhaps otherwise wouldn't be able to afford £10,000, £15,000 to be on a shirt that's suddenly there. So
another massive budget for Mr. Pennyfather.
Budgets, big budgets, brass farthings. Right, I said we'd catch up with Simon Sandiford, our reporter up north, fan extraordinaire. Where have you been tonight, Simon?
Well, Caroline, yes, hello tonight. I'm at Highbury Stadium for the first time in about 4 years, because Fleetwood Town have been playing a game in the Lancashire League, which is basically the Reserves League, except it wasn't Fleetwood Reserves they were playing. It's actually pretty much the first team up against the North West Counties League side Colne, who also were playing their first team as well, having not played the game for about 3 weeks. It was 7:30 kickoff, and it's already finished. And the final score...
Hang on.
Can we have a guess?
Yeah, right. Dave, your guess.
5-0.
5-0.
5-1.
I'm going 8-1.
Oh, Willie, I know the score.
I'll go 9-0.
You two are very close. Go on, Simon.
The final score was Fleetwood Town 9, Colm won.
I knew they'd get one.
Share it.
They must have got one.
No prizes in this game, boys.
It was pretty mental. I mean, Fleetwood did dominate, as you can guess from the scoreline, but it was actually goalless until just after the 25-minute mark. But then I noticed that Jamie Vardy moved from the right to the left, and the game went mad from then onwards, because there was 5 goals in the space of 8 minutes. Vardy first crossing to Brodie for 1-0, Andy Mangan 2-0. This is how strong the side was. Colm hit the crossbar, then Vardy made it 3-0. Colm pulled one back at that point. A minute later, a great goal from Dominic Craig. But then seconds later, Vardy making it 4-1, then getting his hat-trick just after half-time, 5, and then another one, 6-1 on 53 minutes. Then the substitute, Gareth Seddon, made it 7-1. Andy Mangan, though, somehow missed an open goal. How the hell he missed, I've got no idea. In fact, if all the ridiculous misses went in, it would have pretty much been rivaling that Preston versus Hyde game from 100 years ago. But anyway, Vardy got his 5th, Fleetwood 8th on 86, and then number 9, Andy Mangan, on the 90th minute, made it 9-1. But it's interesting, actually, because this Lancashire League is a bit weird. I mean, basically, it's got a West Division that this game was in tonight, and it has an East Division that's got mainly teams from Yorkshire in it, including Tadcaster, which is absolutely miles away near York. But the standard's strange as well, because Fleetwood, maybe surprisingly, are not running away with this league. Like Lancaster and Bamber Bridge are all sort of up there. Fleetwood pretty much mid-table, although I think they tend to field many of the youth team sort of players normally in this division. But it's also years since I was last here as well. Andy Pilley's Revolution was only just starting when I was coming here. The old main stand that I used to sit in is still there, but they've just built a new one on top of it, but basically in front of it. I remember being here years ago, as he said, for a crowd of 50, I think. It was more than that here tonight.
Hang on. Dave Waters isn't here, so I must ask the question he always asks anyone related to Fleetwood on his behalf. How were the toilets?
Well, I did go and check out the toilets just to make sure, and although I spotted 3 screens inside the gents' toilets, they actually weren't switched on, disappointingly, for tonight's game.
You'll need to go back, Simon, you'll need to go back.
I will have to, definitely. But if that wasn't all dramatic enough, the biggest drama appears to be unfolding around me now, because I'm still outside on this big balcony, where the filming for Desperate Scousewives was, for anyone that watched that. Yeah. It's in complete darkness, I can't see a thing. But even more interesting than that is, I'm actually locked on the balcony. I can't get back into the stadium. So if anyone's listening from Fleetwood, then that's the open door so I can get back in.
Is it cold up there, mate?
It's very cold, yeah.
Hang on, are you really locked in?
That's a true story. That's not being dramatic.
We'll have to phone someone.
Do you want me to phone someone? Hang on. Right, let me see if I can raise the press officer.
Do this on there. Brilliant.
All right, keep talking. Tell us something interesting. I'm phoning the press officer from my mobile phone now. Have you tried banging on the door, Simon?
Well, there doesn't appear to be anybody in this building now. Everyone's on the opposite side.
It was a 7:30 kick-off. They've all gone home.
Hello, Natalia. Yeah. You're live on BBC London 94.9. Please don't swear. No one else can hear you. Our reporter appears to be at your ground at the moment.
That's our first.
And he's locked out. Do you think you could go and get someone to let him back in?
He's on a balcony.
He's on a balcony somewhere.
She's at home.
Unlucky Simon.
Walking the dog.
I'm going to put you on loudspeaker. Hang on.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I can't. Right, Natalia, I think everyone can hear you. There we go. Talk to Simon.
Hi, Simon. Hi, Natalia. Yes, how are you doing? I'm actually on the balcony in the stadium. There's no way of getting back inside the building.
She can't hear you. You can't hear him, but he's saying go and help. Right, she's going to go and get someone. Natalia, thank you very much. Simon, just stay there.
Okay.
If you've not heard from anyone... Actually, we'll just keep him there a minute and we'll go and do another interview, if that's okay. We'll come back to Simon. Hopefully he'll be allowed back in just a few minutes.
That's the first, isn't it?
Yeah, hopefully he'll be allowed back in. Simon's there. Tom Snee joins us. Evening, Tom.
Good evening, Caroline. I'm worried about poor old Simon.
Yeah.
You can go and help him. Tom, for those that don't know, is media officer, very grand title, at the Evo-Stick Northern Premier League, and he's on to tell us about the Player of the Year awards. Evening, Tom.
Good evening. How are you doing?
There, proper hello. You can't rescue Simon, but you can tell us about these awards. What are they about? When are they happening? Why should we be interested?
Yeah, well, we've got the Evo-Stick Northern Premier League Player of the Year awards, and they're happening on the 25th of March. That's a Sunday night at the Brooklands Hotel in Barnsley. And basically, We already have the awards at the end of the season for the clubs where we present the league trophies after the AGM, which is fantastic. But what we want to do this time is honour the players. So that's what this event is for. All the awards are voted for by managers and by fans of the clubs.
And you've had a bit of stick today, I've been reading, over some of the announcements that have been made. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, well, the voting closed for the Fans Player of the Year on Friday, and it was down to a panel from the Northern Premier League Facebook group to whittle it down to a short list of 5. We've got Mark Beasley from Burscough, he was at Burscough and now he's at Hednesford, Nick Culkin from Radcliffe Borough, Cheyenne Dunkley from Hednesford, Alex Titchener from Witton, and Ruben Wiggins-Thomas from Carlton. Interestingly, no Northwich Victoria or Northwich Victoria, Chorley or Chester players on that list. So it's quite interesting.
Well, especially you think, as the fans nominating, the fans being involved in the voting too. All those clubs have got big fan support as well.
Well, absolutely. Well, what we didn't want to do is open it as a purely an open vote, because that would just be a popularity contest rather than deciding who is indeed the best player in the opinion of the fans.
I always
think the fans to openly nominate, and then we whittled it down to a short list of 5.
I always think that's about the Mick Payne with us in the studio. I'm just blaming you.
Blame me.
No, but the FA Cup Player of the Round always ends up going to, because it is a fans vote free for all, always ends up going to the club that have got the most amount of fans.
I can vouch for that.
Absolutely.
You would think it would be better to do it the other way around. Fans, as you've done, fans nominate, and then a panel chooses the one out. Anyway, just a thought. So, Tom, this is all part of this wider awards, as you were talking about it. A real first for you and the leagues too, and we're getting involved too. I'm going up to help out with this, so a little plug there as well. But
so the royal way, you're going to get. We are. No, you are. We're not.
All right, you can come if you want to. I'm sure they could come, couldn't they, Tom?
To ask Alan.
Yeah, they'd need a passport. He hasn't got one. Yeah, he'd be all right. But it's a real first for the league too. How have the players taken this in general? Because it's about really promoting the work that they do throughout the year and celebrating the work of the players too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the social networks are buzzing with it, to be honest. Players are already coming at me and asking when they can get involved and how they can buy tickets. So we're very excited about that. The tickets are currently on closed sale to member clubs, but then in March they go on general release, and everybody can buy them through the league website.
Brilliant.
Tom, if people want to find out more, what's the web address?
The website is eitherstickleague.pitchhero.com, and you can find me on Twitter at Tom Snee.
Well worth a follow too. Tom Snee, thank you very much. We'll update you with anything else that comes out of those league awards. We must go back, though, to the balcony of Fleetwood to see if... Simon, are you still there?
I'm still here, Caroline. I'm still pacing the floor, wondering if anyone's going to turn up.
Have you got any supplies? Are there food, water, snow you could perhaps
melt? I've got my phone battery as well. Battery's getting low.
He's panicking now.
Should we hang up on it? It's actually more fun to keep him on. We have sent for support and help, Simon.
Yeah, there's a helicopter coming.
There's not.
Fireman's Sam, isn't it?
He's not. But there will be someone to come and rescue you, Simon. And, we have to say goodbye and I love you before the end of the show tonight. So we will get there by hook or by crook. Is there anything else you want to talk about, or are you just quite happy listening to what we're talking about?
Well, I did make lots of notes, of course, of things that I could talk about, but as I can't see any of them, no, nothing happened at all up north.
Well, there's something nice coming up next, so keep listening, Simon, if you can. Let's run that battery down a bit further. We were talking about, at the start, Mick, with you, how you go out and you search and look for these players. Obviously, Tom Snee was saying there about the Evo Stick Leagues, a real wealth of players there.
Oh, most definitely.
How far down do you go? I know you said about Ricky Holmes, but are you really reliant on managers saying, wait, there's a player over here who's worth a look at?
Most definitely. I mean, I think every player's got a chance. We don't just go for the conference. We do go all the way down, and players have come through. There's no doubt about that. So we'll always be looking at any player, any league, and as I said, it's we was talking earlier on before the show came on air with Paul Benson, who was playing for White Ensign and in the Essex League, and he was already on the radar playing for the Essex League. I know, in the end he came up to when Dagenham were in the conference, but he was on the radar there. So there's lots and lots of players on the radar all the time.
And it's often a case too that a lot of these players are in possibly good full-time jobs as well, so they're making, maybe they haven't gone up because they just think, well, I can earn more money outside of the game.
Well, as I said, there was There was a great story with Scotty Griffiths, who was at Dagenham Redbridge, and he was at the time when I was in the conference, and Scotty was found he came from Aveley, and he came to Dagenham, and I always remember he was playing over at Gray's, and someone in the crowd had gone, "Did you deliver my pizza last night?" And he was actually delivering pizzas as well as playing, and that is true, because he turned up in the car park with the pizza sort of sign on top of his car in the car park, and that is true. Poor old Scotty Griffiths, but he did. So he did have to make a living both ways,
Well, our next guest may know something of that. Our next guest has been working on a new film called Saturday, working with Cray Wanderers. You may remember a couple of weeks ago someone texted in to say you should really check out Saturday, a new film that's coming out about non-league football. We've only gone and got the director on. That's not the most impressive bit. Dave Anderson.
Yeah.
The director is called David Anderson. Evening, David Anderson.
Evening, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. David Anderson, meet Dave Anderson.
Hiya.
Hey, Dave Anderson.
Yeah, fine. This isn't the first time this has happened to me, by the way, but tell us about your movie.
All right, well, the film, it's a short fiction piece which is celebrating non-league football and the dedication of the players who are involved. It basically explores the demands of working a full-time job, whether that's pizza delivery guy or something else, and combining it with the commitment necessary to play non-league.
And you've gone through quite a lot to get this film going. Is it right that I hear you've actually signed, one of the guys from your film has actually signed up to Cray Wanderers so you could get him on the pitch to film him? Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like Jenko's the manager down there, and Joe, who I think you know, Dave, don't you?
I do, Joey Francis, top man.
Yeah, good lads. And they got right behind the project from the beginning, and we managed to sign up a player who'd played a lot of non-league football, Danny Husbands, who'd played at Dulwich Hamlets and a couple of other clubs. And so we took him along to training because I always wanted this authenticity to the film. And luckily, Jenks thought that he was good enough, so he signed him up and he brought him on for the last 10 minutes of the game.
And how did he do? Because there's one point in a little trailer on your website where Cray Wanderers are described as the Barcelona of the Ryman League. How was he? Did he play well? Is he going to resurrect his career with Cray?
Well, he didn't quite fit into the Barcelona style of play, but he chased down a lot of lost causes. And he had a couple of nice moments. They're the moments that will obviously make the edit of the film.
What comes across in the small part of the film that I've seen as well is just the warmth of everyone at Cray, how welcoming they are as well, and that must have really helped.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, without Jenko, without Joe, without Blado, Gary Hillman, the chairman, if they didn't get right on board the project, then we simply wouldn't have been able to make it. Meeting a lot of non-league clubs making this film, I mean, I think that's the general feeling at most of them. It's not. One of the reasons I wanted to make this is because I've fallen out of love so much with the Premiership and the money that's involved in it. And so it's so nice to go to somewhere where you're appreciated as a supporter rather than just kind of ticking the boxes.
But I tell you what, Dave, you've got your verbals right. All you do is put a no or a Y on the end of everyone's name, and that's it. Django, Joey, and that's you're made.
When's this film coming out, Dave?
Well, the aim of it is, it's a short film, so it's only 25 minutes long as it stands. We've got to finish it for the middle of March. Then the plan after that is that it'll go around a lot of festivals. But the long-term game is we've got a feature in development which is set non-league. It's not the same story as this. It's more dealing with the black hole and what happens to the players who are released from the big clubs when they go into non-league. So that's our next step.
We'll have to get you into the studio as well and talk about it.
I'm not coming that night.
You are. Well, with Dave Waters in as well. 3 days. It'll be well worth it. And he's just like, it must be something to do with the name, David Anson. He talks as well for England, doesn't he, too? David Anson, thanks for coming on tonight. dnfilms.co.uk/Saturday. Do have a look at what they've cut down so far, because it's a really well worth a watch. I think it's going to be a great film too. Let's return, shall we, to Highbury. I've just had word that the communications officer for Fleetwood should be on his way to let Simon out. Simon, are you there? Simon? No.
His battery's gone.
I know what's happened. I reckon the old Bill have turned up, think that he's trying to get in. That's what's happened. He's been nicked, hasn't he?
To be continued.
Simon
to be
Sandiford.
continued.
Brilliant.
He's done that deliberately because he knows it's Valentine's Day tomorrow, so I can't say I love you. Mick, thank you for coming tonight. It's been a real pleasure having you in. If you could pick one player out of that current team...
Oh, that's not fair.
Who's going to be the next Steve Morrison to make it up? Who's it going to be?
That would be unfair.
Go on.
No, as I said, I think for me, Danny Rose, I've mentioned before, I think he's...
How old is he now, Mike?
He's about 23, he'll be 23, it's on the 23 side.
So
I mean, I'd like to say, Caroline, if you wouldn't mind, just say the game we're playing at Fleetwood, strangely enough. I mean, our reporter might still be there, but we're playing on the 28th against Italy there, and if you've seen it in the non-league paper, it's free entry as well, free admission. So, it'd be a good night.
Does that fall on a Sunday? 28th?
Tuesday. Well worth a watch. Italy as well. Yeah. He may still be there because he's still there at the moment. Simon, are you there?
Hi, Caroline.
Hey!
Yes, I have been rescued, I'm glad to say.
It's down to us.
Yeah. People guys have come back from halfway home, would you believe, to rescue me. But I have survived and I am back in the land of the living.
Well done to all the guys at Fleetwood who would have been there this time next week to catch you.
So what we're saying is, Mick saying it's free to get in, but you got to pay to get out.
That's right. I keep you in there, that's the problem. Yeah.
Simon, thanks for coming back on. Simon Sandford.
Yes, Caroline?
You know what?
You love me.
I love you, sir. Good night. Simon Sandford finally rescued. That's what the non-league show's about, rescuing people from the humdrum of life. Simon, thank you. My thanks to Mick. Plug again for the game.
Yeah, no, thanks for being here. It's really looking forward to the game on the 28th.
28th,
yeah.
Fleetwood,
England versus Italy.
Well worth seeing Italy get beaten.
Exactly.
By the might of England. David Anderson, and Willie Wordsworth as well.
Night.
Thanks to everyone that's been part of the show tonight, and to the boys and girls outside too. If you've missed any of the show, download the podcast via the website bbc.co.uk/non-league. Good night.
Real football, real fans. Every Monday from 9 p.m. at bbc.co.uk/non-league.